Hello everyone, and welcome back to my continuing tutorial campaign in Realistic Progression 0, the campaign mod for the Realism Overhaul suite of realism mods. And in the last extended two-part episode, we eventually got a satellite into geostationary orbit, despite first running into a bug in Realism Overhaul, and second running into some sort of joint issue. So it's definitely a good idea to build out our geostationary network. Now, in the last episode, we saw that there was a contract to place another satellite in geostationary orbit, but it's basically right next to where we wanted it to be already, where we already had one, and it's requiring us to add a film return camera. And the question is, just how much performance overhead do we have on that Able Star stage? We know we're going to need about 500, 550 meters per second out of it already, given what those numbers are. Now, if we put a 200 kilogram mass on it, come on, there we go. So problem one is we're getting only a kilometer per second delta V instead of 1800 meters per second. So that's bad. And we can't make that up with onboard hydrazine because with the extra 200 kilograms mass, we're not going to have that much. When we add it to this, that drops by 350 meters per second or so, which means that we only have about a 500 meters per second cushion. So question is, can we add enough kick motor extra? Let's just go up to 3 of these Altairs. Okay, that's more than we need. Going that way, we 4901 plus 800. So we need to draw 800. So we just barely don't have the capability with this current launch vehicle to put a film return camera in geostationary. So we're going to have to wait for a contract that doesn't require that kind of insanity. So let's see if maybe now the contract gods smile on us more. Let's see. Looking here. That's what we had from last time. That's the one with the film return camera. We don't want to reposition something. We can't go to Mars yet. I mean, we actually probably could, but we really need those fold-out solar panels to go to Mars. Still, it wants to give us Mars. Still, more Mars. You wouldn't think it would be that hard to get the thing to generate, you know, a basic geostationary orbit. But it is what it is. It's a Molniya orbit, which is tempting. It pays well, but okay, so we don't seem to actually be getting a reasonable geostationary contract. In fact, it might be that our reputation is too high. It keeps giving us these interplanetary things. Oh, I'm sorry, that's wrong. Now we do have one. Oh, except that's geosynchronous. And it wants a retrograde inclination. That seems odd. Let's not. Specific order of the Earth, that's very supersynchronous. Mars. Deimos, Moon, Mars. Back to the Molniya orbits. Alright, so that does not seem to be a good use of our time, just playing contract slot machines. So let's go ahead and do this one. This one is quite simple. We want a micrometeorite detector on a satellite, and it needs an apogee between 7, so high apogee and perigee. Alright, so we can do that on the Scorpion B. That's fine. Oops, I didn't actually select the thing. I really should have selected the thing, shouldn't I? Okay, so now it's time to think about what kind of satellite we actually want. Given that it doesn't actually have to be a maneuverable satellite at all, we can just go ahead and use our trusty 20-inch X-ray core. So clear that. Select that. We don't even need solar panels or anything. We just need micrometeorite detector. Now, conveniently, this actually already has one. But since the performance requirements yeah, I'm wondering whether we can get away with actually using the sounding rocket core, but that's kind of chintzy. So let's go ahead and add some antennas. Well, actually, we'll use these. Interesting arrangement. That looks correct. And this does include a micrometeorite detector. And I think, let me just check how that contract is. Oh, no, it's, I bet it's written the other way, actually. I bet it is going to require these things. But they're cheap and light, so we'll just add 2. That's fine. There we go. And let's go ahead and grab our trusty Scorpion B. And verify that range safety is set up for this. It's not yet. And set this for the antennas. Toggle. Okay. So now let's check our delta V. That's quite a lot of delta V. We will have plenty of capacity to reach the required orbit. And let's just verify this. The orbit has to be, yep, it just has to have those parameters. It doesn't have any kind of inclination limit. So we'll just call this Echo 5. Okie dokie. And we'll roll it on out. And we get a dawn launch. So because we happily still have that relightable stage, we are now going to go ahead and, oh, and let me check what the texts are looking like. Proved instrumentation is coming soon. And then mature orbital rocketry. So yeah, we want to launch to so about a 500 kilometer. Well, we're going to launch to parking orbit first. So let's try 720. And this now is actually 70, 110, 35. Go ahead and Light it up. And launch. Good roll program. And we have pitch program initiation. And turn looks good. Now, while we're launching, we can consider our next major milestone, and there's two big milestones that we need to do. One of them is putting a human being into orbit and returning them safely to the Earth. The other is sending some interplanetary probes. Now, looking at the tech list that's coming up, improved instrumentation is going to come in about half a year. After that, we can seriously look at interplanetary probes. Before that, we're stuck using that early controllable core, and we don't have any kind of fold-out solar panels, and we don't have any kind of good solar panels. So we'd really only want to send something to Venus. We wouldn't be able to maintain electric charge at Mars. So I think it's probably worth waiting till we get that node unlocked before we do that. However, in the meanwhile, we can actually start on the process of flight certifying our capsule, getting things ready to put a human being in orbit. So our turn is looking pretty good so far. About 30 seconds to burnout. $15 seconds. Two, one, burnout. Stage and ignition. All right, we're going to a fairly high apogee, it looks like. So we're actually going to lower our... Okay. Yeah, and we still have that shimmy. I really need to figure out why MechJeb is having problems with that stage. Okay, fairing sep. And as it happens, I kinda don't care about the extra gravity losses, so let's go ahead and align more closely with the surface prograde indicator and the orbit indicator. Yeah, it's very interesting that, to me, thus far, the only engine that MechJeb has had problems with, well, there's only two. The A4 engine from the start, it really has problems with. And this engine. It did not have problems with the early AJ-10, but it does have problems with this. It's very confusing. So a slightly higher final perigee than I'd like, but we've minimized steering losses some. Gravity losses are still fairly low. Two minutes burn time remaining on this upper stage. About a minute to apogee. Now, you might think that we're 40 seconds from apogee, but we're kind of not, because as we get closer and closer, the more horizontal speed we add means that that will decrease it less than real time. Looks like we are still going to fall down a little bit after apogee, but that's okay, because we kind of don't care what our insertion perigee is, because we're going to be raising it at final apogee anyway. And we're high enough that we're not going to fall back into the atmosphere before we insert into some orbit. Yep, so we're right about to pass apogee. Okay, now we can watch our vertical speed mount. We're at negative vertical speed mount. About 400 meters per second away. That's still going to leave us about 1,000 in the stage. But we're burning up to 720, 730. Something. Well, let's try 730. And we have skip circularization turned on. So we've inserted. We're continuing to burn, and there's burnout. Now, we want to align with we'll extend the antennas, so we're good. We want to basically align with the retrograde indicator, because that will put us prograde at apogee. Picked up a tiny bit of roll. Okay, and alignment. All right, now let's go ahead and I'll close the KCT window. And we want, oh, I already have that tab open. Change perigee, 500 kilometers. That's an 87.3 meter per second burn. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, we're approaching apogee. And let's fire up the ullage thrusters. Make sure that we have a nice stable propellant situation. And there we go. Let her rip. All right, that completes the contract. So let's go ahead and spin up. Just to keep that satellite's orientation stabilized. And there we go. Now we're going to go ahead and mark this stage as garbage. Rename vessel. Debris. Okay. So that contract succeeded. That gave us some more money. It's another meteorological satellite. Oh no, it's the first meteorological satellite. It's a fairly high orbit and high inclination. So that's one option we could do. can see whether we'll get ourselves a useful geostationary contract. Specific orbit of Earth, that's useless. Deimos is useless. Tundra orbit will give us polar coverage, but not. I mean, what we really want to do is this. It has, what is that, 3.5 years about? That's plenty of time. And it gives us a big advance, big completion. So you know what? The heck with it. Let's just go ahead and do that. Yes, that as my girlfriend has pointed out, that really sounds like the Aflac duck. Okay, so we can almost afford to upgrade the VAB, but we're about to get rid of a lot of those savings, which is tragic. Not savings, funds. And sadly, flight control is at 213, which means that we won't be able to dock early on. But that's okay. We don't actually have to dock. So let's look at the payload capacity of our large launch vehicle. Where did I put that? We'll just start. We'll just do new. Don't save. 14 kilograms. And let's put a propellant tank under that thing. And put some lead ballast in it. Catapult. It claims 3.6 tons to orbit. That, let's see. Oops. Let's see what we actually have at 3.6 tons. 9240. All right, so that's kind of that. I would definitely don't want to do anything more than that. Now the question is, what would it be like in a polar orbit? So let's lower this some. I think that's about right for polar orbit. Yeah, how much is that? That's 2.75 tons. Okay, so the first block of capsule we will launch, I guess, will not have all the trimmings. Because we'd like to launch into polar orbit and then get crew reports from everything. So let's go ahead and unlock the pod. Unlock prices. Hefty. Okay. And, oh, I always call these things Beagle, so let's call it Beagle. Interesting side note, we're actually going to want to fly it without crew, so we might end up having some sort of guidance unit on it, actually. That uses, oh, that's starting. Where's early? That uses 300 watts. How much does this use? This uses 530 watts. So that brings us up to 830 watts. 830 watts. Oh, actually, I mean, we could just have that. Yeah, that works acceptably. That does indeed work acceptably. Yes, what's truly tragic is that we don't have the docking port yet, because it'd be great if we had monopropellant RCS and bipropellant RCS. We're stuck with hydrazine RCS at the moment. So tragic, very tragic. Now, due to a bug in Remote Tech, which hasn't, as far as I'm aware, been fixed, if we're sending this up without a crew, we're going to need to actually have this be the root part. So let's go ahead and do that now. Whoops, I literally just did the wrong thing. This is the root part. This is the not root part. Okay, now we're going to need a parachute. Okay. And we're going to need some kind of shroud over that. Okay. And one. Not a lot of height. A bunch of extra height. So let's go ahead and we're going to want this here, but rotated upwards. Okay. And we're going to want a second one, well, a shorter one actually, I think. Now we're going to want aerodynamic nose cone right there. We're going to want some solid motors. And that's a whole lot of thrust, about the right delta V. Interesting. Why is it not actually affecting? I wonder if that's another bug. Probably. Let's find out. SEP motor. Yep, that's another bug. All right, well, I guess I know what I'm fixing next. I should have just, yeah. Okay. Oh well, live and learn. Yeah, I should have reviewed the PR better. That's kind of my fault. Okay, and now, what else do we need on this craft? Well, we need a decoupler of some sort. And we'll do it again as a interstage shroud. Although, actually, no, we're just doing the minimal model. So we'll do it like this. Okay, and these go here, and this goes here. And that is not sufficient delta V to re-enter. Although, oh, I need to deal with the parachute first. I think that's probably why it's so heavy. Yeah, let's check it out. So we want single chute in each case. That's fine. The main chute, switch to wet mass, 6 meters per second, 2,000, 1,200. Those are good numbers. Switch to wet mass. We want drogue. That's fine. Target altitude 2,500, 4,500, 2,500. Auto cut 1,800, and that takes the mass down, cuts it in half, less than half. Okay. Now let's look at the delta V involved. Oops, we're still in action groups. We'll call this Beagle Mark 1. 89 meters per second, still not enough. Let's try 116. That's still not. I want about Mercury's delta V, which was about 170 meters per second. So, and we also, that's the G load on that is too high. So let's look at this. And I think we want just 2 of them. 131. Oops. Let's put it. $130. Interesting. I expect the cosine losses to be worse before. I think 130 is sufficient. We're not launching to a high orbit. We're just launching to a really low orbit for now. And besides which, that decoupler will give us a final kick. So we'll add another one under this. Add a film camera, because we want to get that polar science. And then we add a propellant tank. Wrong tab. And right. That's cool. Now we need to unlock these 1 kilonewton thrusters, because we're going to add 1 there and then another 2, I think. Okay, and we need to set them to hydrazine. They're already defaulting to hydrazine, although defaulting to TL0. All right, and set this to service module. And go ahead and add hydrazine. And that actually looks about right. Let's go ahead and give it an even 3 minutes burn time. And now we need to add some RCS. We need to unlock the actual serious business quads. For review. Upgrade that. And how are we doing? We're up to 2.1 tons. Lastly, how much life support? We had 2 days, I think? 2 days, yeah. We're just a little short on water, but that's fine. So we're gonna go ahead and up this to 3 days, all around. Okay, that should do that. And we're talking about 530 watts. So 0.53 times 86,400 is 45,792. Times 3 is 137,376. We have a bunch of... Let's add a bunch of electric charge. Okay. And that seems decent for now. Okay, so we have our fallback deorbit engines. We have RCS and orbital maneuvering propellant. We have a crap ton of batteries in that thing. We also should bring some antennas, because that's always good. Okay, now I think that effectively is our sort of minimalist capsule. It doesn't have many of the trimmings we might expect to have, but it will serve. So lastly, we're going to turn on the CO2 scrubber. We're going to disable the RCS ports until we're actually ready to use them. And we'll subsist off this RCS. Right, so let's go ahead and put it on our launch vehicle. I'm picking the 3-stage because we're going to remove the top stage, but we want that, basically we want it to have the interstage instead of a fairing base. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and widen out the top, bring it up to here. Okay, widen it out a little bit more. We're at 2.2 meters. So now we have to do the launch escape system. Yeah, so we'll plop that on there. Meanwhile, we'll also add some struts up here, I guess. Kind of hate to use struts, but it's perhaps appropriate in this instance. Although the real issue is aerodynamic forces will probably make the escape tower not actually work. So let's check staging. That's fine. What decoupler might that be? Okay, so this decoupler is that one, this decoupler is that. All right, so that's all correct. Now, that staging got messed up. That's correct now. So this staging. We want right after ignition. So we also want a couple little motors to separate this away. We only need two. Okay. Those motors need to engage. Well, actually, yeah. With that, go ahead and set up our abort groups. Abort. Activate engine. And we want to decouple that. Right, but that will still leave us with the retros. We also want to jettison the fairing sides. Now on 5, we want to do all the things that we otherwise might. We're going to decouple the higher of the two decouplers. We're going to decouple that. We're going to ignite these. Ignite these if for some reason we haven't yet. And deploy the parachute. Now, we're going to action group the science. Take photographs, crew report. Okay. Now lastly, let's add our boost protective cover. And we just want standard conic sides. And we only need 2 of them. And actually we don't want conic, we want shroud. Okay. So let's go ahead and extra height. There's going to be a lot of extra height. Get rid of extra radius. Now. Okay, and also we're going to swap over to the Atlas sides. We have auto shape off, increase when the cylinder starts. Ugh. Alright, so we can't quite do that. We're not quite wide enough. Alright, that will do. So, that is decent. That should be enough launch vehicle to get us to polar orbit. Yeah, that all looks fairly reasonable to me. The only thing I want to do is I want to try a simulation with an abort and see how that works. Simulation is going to be ruinously expensive. Oh, it's not really. We're only up to 12,000 funds. Okay, well, we don't need long. We just need 5 minutes. Oh, you know, I calculated that electric charge for... because I didn't include the avionics unit. Oh well. Alright, let's see how abort goes. And let's watch far rip to shreds, which probably is what's going to happen. Or not. Excellent. Interesting. We didn't decouple what we... I guess the decoupler was sort of stuck. Okay, so that abort worked just fine. We just have to adjust... let's see. Yeah, I do like procedural fairings for everything with these nice Atlas fairing sides. All right, how are we going to do this? Well, yes, that looks like it's stuck. No, wrong thing, right thing. All right. Okay, let's see if that works. Okay, let's try abort again. See if we don't get stuck this time, maybe, hopefully. Yeah, that's better. That worked well. Okay. Okay, so I would say that this we're good. So yeah, given the state of the night, the impressively long geostationary episode that was the last episode, I think I'm going to end things here, and then in the next episode we can work on flight proving this capsule. We'll want to do an abort test from the pad officially, run it all the way through. We'll want to do a couple, a launch at max Q, a launch, an abort at max Q, an abort at max G. We do get 8.21 Gs on the upper stage, although the upper stage usually you don't have the escape tower sitting there for. So, yeah, after that's all done, then presumably we'd fly a suborbital to verify the heat shield. Then a full-on automated orbit mission, or maybe not even the suborbital, just a full-on automated mission. That's why I put that able guidance unit in there, so that we can run an automated mission just to verify the entirety of the flight. And then finally we can go ahead and send a human being up. So that is the plan for next time. For now, I'm going to call it quits. Thanks everybody for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I hope that you might have learned something from it. It proved helpful to you. And I hope to see you all again soon. Thanks.